गणा ललिता श्रीशाकान्तां च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते ताप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणि निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणी। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्ण माता।
You are able to see the screen, right? Anyone wants to read?
I will read, Mataji.
Yes,
Hare
ma'am.
Krishna. Happiness in Krishna consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami has analyzed the different sources of happiness. He has divided happiness into three categories, which are happiness derived from material enjoyment, happiness derived from identifying oneself with the Supreme Brahman, and happiness derived from Krishna consciousness. In the Tantra Shastra, Lord Shiva speaks to his wife Sati in this way: My dear wife, a person who has surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Govinda and who has thus developed pure Krishna consciousness can be very easily awarded all the perfections desired by the impersonalists, and beyond this, he can enjoy the happiness achieved by the pure devotees. Shall I continue, Mataji?
Anyone else wants to read? Krishnamurti Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, pranams Mataji.
Dandavat.
Mataji, slightly bit scroll upwards Mataji.
Yeah.
Happiness derived from the devotional service is the highest because it is eternal. The happiness derived from material perfection or understanding oneself to be Brahman is inferior because it is temporary. There is no preventing one's falling down from material happiness, and there is even very chance of falling down from the spiritual happiness derived by identifying oneself with the impersonal Brahman. Shall I continue, Mataji?
No problem. We will discuss this 3 paragraphs.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, yeah, so we were discussing different categories in this first chapter. So now we are in the happiness derived from Krishna conscious. So in this first, what we read just now, so we can understand here that Rupa Goswami is telling that the happiness can be analyzed, or the source of happiness is in 3 different ways. One is in derived from material enjoyment, and the second one derived by identifying ourselves with the Supreme Brahman, and happiness derived from Krishna consciousness. So we can understand here now the last paragraph what Prabhuji read, that the happiness derived from Krishna consciousness is the highest. Because it is eternal. Whereas the happiness derived from other like material perfection or material attachment or enjoyment, we know it is always temporary. It is mentioned here as in the inferior. The same thing with which is derived from identifying ourselves with Supreme Brahman. So, identifying ourselves with Supreme Brahman is impersonalist or Mayavadis. They all come under those categories. And so now when there is what else is Prabhupada mentioning here is the happiness when derived from Krishna consciousness. So going ahead, Krishna consciousness becomes devotional service, and in that, the pure devotional service. So that is the highest, and in that, there is no chance of falling down at all. In the sense that even when we don't desire anything over there, we will be awarded by all perfection, which is usually desired by the impersonalist or the materialistic persons. So they also enjoy all the happiness which is derived by the pure devotees. So in that way, it is the highest and eternal. And we can see that we'll come to know more about this in coming paragraphs. And whereas for materially attached, enjoyed, we know that they are fully sense gratification. They no realization. There is no self-realization at all. So they are only in the process of going through this cycle of birth and death and only trying to enjoy the senses. So they are always falling in the material world and only trying to derive happiness only through the material things. They have no knowledge about spirituality. Whereas the people who are trying to impersonalist or Mayavadis, they are having at least some realization, but still, what happened? That this part also we'll try to understand in the next verse of what Prabhupada is also trying to tell us. So basically here we can understand that it is very clearly understood that happiness derived from Krishna consciousness is the highest. So we are in this process of devotional service. So we have nothing to lose. So this is very clearly mentioned here. Yeah, anyone else wants to read next paragraph?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Sudha Mataji.
From it has been, we have to read from there, no Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It has been seen that great Mayavadi impersonalist sannyasis, very highly educated and almost realized souls, may sometimes take to political activities or to social welfare activities. The reason is that they actually do not derive any ultimate transcendental happiness in the impersonal understanding and therefore must come down to the material platform and take to such mundane affairs. There are many instances, especially in India, where these Mayavadi sannyasis descend to the material platform again. But a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness will never return to any sort of material platform. However alluring and attracting they may be, he always knows that no material welfare activities can compare to the spiritual activity of Krishna consciousness. Should I continue the next paragraph, Mataji?
No, we'll finish this, Mataji.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So here, Prabhupada is actually trying to make us very clear that a person who is enjoying happiness as Brahman realization, uh, and all this Mayavadi philosophy is very prominent. So their basic principle, what Prabhupada tells is that Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya. So what is their understanding? That this material world is false and the Brahman realization of what they think, that is the truth. So there are many sannyasis, there are so many Mayavadis, they renounce this word considering it as mithya. That is, this material word is false and take to Brahman realization path. But what happens after some days? They come down to some philanthropic work, some or into politics or some other things. Why? If Brahman is Satya and this Jagat is Mithya, then from the platform of Satya, that is the truth, why they fall down again into this material world? So this question arises for us. And Prabhupada mentions that all these Mayavadis or the sannyasis who are under Brahman realization, when they fall into this material platform, they either open some hospital or school or some other philanthropic activities is being generally done by this people. So why do you think they come to this platform? Because we can understand very clearly that there is no happiness of what they thought to be Brahman happiness, or they have not realized it truly as Brahman realization. So when they could not realize that the happiness of Brahman, they will try to derive happiness in some other way. So where can they get happiness? So they will try to get happiness in material world. So that is why uh, they take to this philanthropic works. And one more misunderstanding what they have is they think that they have become liberated. Actually, they are not liberated. So if somebody is liberated, they cannot come to again to this platform of material world or to this bondage of birth and death. So actually Prabhupada gives connects this with one more verse. I've just opened it. Kripa Mai Sita Mataji, can you recite this verse and this
Yes, Mataji.
translation, Mataji?
Hare Krishna. Yene Ravindaksha Vimukta Maninas Vai Astabhavad Avisuddha Buddhiya Arya Krichena Parampadam Tada Patani Ado Nadra Yusmat Angi Angarayaha. Synonyms, shall I read, Mataji?
You can read the translation.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Some a translation and purport by Prabhupada ki jai. Someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and other demigods said, O lotus eye Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. Purport, Mataji? Shall I read the
Purport. Yes, Mataji. Quickly you can read.
Thank you, Mataji. Aside from devotees, there are many others non-devotees known as karmis, jnanis, and yogis, philanthropists, altruists, politicians, impersonalists, and voidists. There are many varieties of non-devotees who have their respective ways of liberation, but simply because they do not know the shelter of Lord's lotus feet, although they falsely think that they have been liberated and elevated to the highest position, they fall down, as clearly stated by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita 9.3. Astradayadana Purusha Dharmasya Yasya Pratantapa Apriya Mam Nirvantante Mrityu Samrasa Vattamani. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. It doesn't matter whether one is a karmi, jnani, yogi, philanthropist, politician, or whatever. If one has no love for the lotus feet of the Lord and one falls down, that is the verdict given by the Lord Brahma in this verse. There are persons who advocate accepting any process and who say that whatever process one accepts will lead to the same goal, but that is refuted in this verse, where such persons are referred to as Vimukta Manina, signifying that although they think that they have attained the highest perfection, in fact they have not. In the present day, big politicians all over the world think that by scheming they can occupy the highest political post, that of the president or the prime minister. But we actually see that even in this life, such big prime ministers, presidents, and other politicians, because of their non-devotees, they fall down. Patanti Adaha. To become president or prime minister, it is not easy. One must work for very hard. Arukya Pechina to achieve the post. And even though one may reach his goal at any moment, he may be kicked down by the material nature. In human society, there have been many instances in which great exalted politicians have fallen from government and become lost in historic oblivion. The cause of this is Avisuddha Buddhaya, that intelligence is impure. The Sastra says, Nate Vidu Swata Katimna Vishnu. Bhagavad Gita 1.5.31. One achieves the perfection of life by becoming a devotee of Vishnu, but people do not know this. Therefore, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 12.5, Kleso Dikkataras Tesam Abhya Abhyaktasya Abhyaktakshta Chetasam. Persons who do not ultimately accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead and take to devotional service, but who instead are attached to the impersonalism and voidism, must undergo great labor to achieve their goals.
Yes.
See,
Mataji, you can stop here.
Thank you.
So we can clearly understand from this verse that those who are not devoted to Krishna and those who are materialistic or even impersonalist, who are thinking that they have achieved liberation, but it is not so. Why? Because what does Prabhupada mention here? He mentions that the cause of this is Avishuddha Buddhaye. Their intelligence is impure. So because their intelligence is impure, their understanding is also gone wrong over there. So this is very clear over here. So the impersonalists, what they do, they are thinking falsely that they have become liberated or they are themselves God. Actually, it is not. Why? Because in this verse, it is clearly mentioned that their intelligence is impure. So what we can understand, if the intelligence is not yet purified, it means that there is still material attachment. And if the intelligence is not pure, they are still materially attached or materially also affected. So if in continuation also, Prabhupada mentions in this verse that why it does not get purified is what we read. Yeah, so they are not fully. So in this verse where we read in the starting, Aruhya Tritrena Param Padam. So by severe austerities or penances, they may follow very strictly the rules and regulations of renouncement. That is the difficult procedure for self-realization. But despite all these endeavors, right? So all these endeavors, what does Prabhupada tell? They do a lot of endeavors like this Mayavadis. They do a lot of renouncements, lot of austerities, everything, but their intelligence is still not purified. So that is why they fall down. So we can understand that only by taking to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, we can come out of this material world, and our intelligence also becomes purified in this. So that is why Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita also, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. So after so many births of such struggle, when actually one becomes very wise and take to Krishna consciousness, and then he surrenders onto the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, that is the perfection of life. So unless we take shelter of the Lord, our intelligence is not very much purified. So that is possible only through devotional practices. So this is very clear here from this verse. So Prabhupada gives a reference to this verse. So we'll continue back. So hope that is clear with impersonal Brahman. Why that they cannot achieve, or why do they come back to the material platform again? Because mainly because their intelligence is not purified and they still have the attachment. Yeah, we'll continue reading from here. Shobha Mataji, you can read from this.
Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam Mataji Prabhuji, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The mystic perfection achieved by actual successful yogis are 8 in number. Anima Siddhi refers to the power by which one can become so small that he can enter into a stone. Modern scientific improvements also enable us to enter into stone because they provide for excavating so many subways, penetrating the hills, etc. So, Anima Siddhi is the mystic perfection of trying to enter into stone. Has also been achieved by material science. Similarly, all of the yoga siddhis or perfections are material arts. For example, in one yoga siddhi, there is development of the power to become so light that one can float in the air or on water. That is also being performed by modern scientists. They are flying in the air, they are floating on the surface of the water, and they are traveling under the water. Should I continue, Mataji?
Swati Mataji, you can just read the next paragraphs.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. After comparing all these mystic yoga siddhis to materialistic perfections, we find that materialistic scientists try for the same perfections. So actually, there is no difference between mystic perfection and materialistic perfection. A German scholar once said that so-called yoga perfections had already been achieved by modern scientists, and so he was not concerned with them. He intelligently went to India to learn how he could understand his eternal relationship with Supreme Lord by means of Bhakti Yoga, devotional service. Of course, in the categories of mystic perfection, there are certain processes the material scientists have not yet been able to develop. For instance, a mystic yogi can enter into the sun planet simply by using the rays of the sunset. This perfection is called lagima. Similarly, yogi can touch the moon with his finger. Through the modern astronauts go to the moon with the help of spaceships. They undergo many difficulties, whereas a person with mystic perfection and can extend his hand and touch the moon with his finger. This siddhi is called prapti or acquisition. Acquisition. With the with this prapti siddhi, not only can the perfect mystic yogi touch the moon planet, but can extend his hand anywhere and take whatever he likes. He may be sitting thousands of miles away from certain place, and likes he can take fruit from the garden there. This is prapti siddhi. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So we'll discuss this. Yeah. So we were discussing about impersonalist, the mystic yogis and all. So Prabhupada here mentions that the mystic perfections, they can be achieved by the yogis in, there are 8 in number. So which are they? So Prabhupada keeps explaining them in between all of them. So I'll give you the names. They are called Anima Siddhi. So then there is Lagima Siddhi, Mahima Siddhi, and Prakyamya Siddhi, Prapti Siddhi, Isitva Siddhi, Vasitva Siddhi, and Kama Vasaita Siddhi. So as we read here, we understood that these are the 8 siddhis. What are they? I'll just explain that in summarize of whatever Prabhupada has mentioned here. So first he mentions about Anima Siddhi. So what is Anima Siddhi here? Anima Siddhi refers to that a person can become so small that he can still enter into a stone. So the same thing can be done also by modern materialistic people like the scientists who can enter into the hills, penetrate towards the hill or the subways. So that is the Anima Siddhi. Then I spoke about Lagima Siddhi. So for Lagima Siddhi also, it is like a person can become, what is Prabhupada mentioned here? Yeah, Lagima Siddhi. So what is he able to develop? He can enter into the sun planet simply by using the rays of the sun. So he can go and touch the moon with his, that is different, sorry. So like a person can enter into different planets. So here Prabhupada is given example of sun planet. So that perfection is called Lagima. So this siddhis do lot of austerities and they become perfectionist in all this siddhis. What are, one was Anima Siddhi, then this second one was Lagima Siddhi. The Mahima Siddhi is again, Anima Siddhi was to become smaller, the smallest. Mahima Siddhi is to become the biggest or the tallest in that way, so that they can perform some siddhis over there. And Prabhupada mentions here about Prapti Siddhi. So he can touch, he can go and wherever he is sitting, he can just go and touch the moon planet with his fingers. Just everything done by siddhis. And he can even extend his hand. So he can do anything, not only touch the moon planet, he can touch his hand anywhere and take whatever he likes. Suppose if we are sitting here, we can enter into somebody else's garden and he can take a fruit from there. So it is like whatever you want, whatever you like, you can take that just by putting the hand over there. So that is called as Prapti Siddhi over here. And yeah, did we read the next paragraphs? No. Okay, Rajeshwari Mataji, you can read that.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Correct.
The modern scientists have manufactured nuclear weapons with which they can destroy a significant part of this planet. But by the yoga siddha known as Ista, one can create, destroy, and enter the planet simply at will. Another perfection is called Vista, and by this Vasita. Thank you, Mataji. And by this perfection, one can bring anyone under his control. This is kind of hypnotism that is almost irresistible. Sometimes it is found that a yogi who can have attained the little perfection in the Nivasta, mystic power comes out among the people and speak all sort of nonsense, controls their minds, exploits them, takes their money, and then goes away. There is another mystic perfection which is known as prakramya magic. Prakamya, the magic. By this prakamya power, one can achieve anything he likes. For example, one can make water enter into his eyes and then again come out from within the eyes. Simply by his will, he can perform such wonderful activities. The highest perfection of mystic power is called Kamavashyatya. This Kamavashyatya. Thank you, Mataji. This is also magic, but whereas as the Prakamya power acts to create wonderful effects within the scope of nature, Kamavashyatya permits one to control nature in other world, to do the impossible. Of course, one can derive a great amounts of temporary happiness by achieving such yoga materialistic perfections. Foolish people who are enrolled of an glomeral of a modern materialistic achievements and thinking that the Krishna conscious movement is for less intelligent men. I am better off for being busy with my material comforts, maintaining a nice apartment, family, and sex life. The people do not know that at any moment they can be kicked out of their material situation due to ignorance. They do not know the real life is eternal. The temporary comforts of the body are not the goal of life, and it is due only to darkness, ignorance, that people become enroled for the glimmer's advancement of the material comforts. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur has therefore said that the advancement of material knowledge render a person more foolish, because it causes one to forget his real identity by its glimmer. This is doom for him, because this human form of life is meant for getting out of material contamination. By the advancement of material knowledge, people are becoming more and more entangled in material existence. They have no hope for being liberated from this Castamoropia.
Yes,
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
so we were discussing about different yogi siddhis. So we discussed till Prapti Siddhi. So Prapti. So whatever you want, you take that, you can get that. Just put your hand anywhere and take whatever the person likes. So that is called Prapti Siddhi. Then there is called as Ishita Siddhi. So Ishita Siddhis, they can destroy an insignificant thing in this planet, or they can create an entire planet, all such things. So, and then there is Vashita Siddhi, Vashita. So you can see Vashikaran Vital. So hypnotism. So they can try to control any person and bring them under their control. So we see this also happen, a few of this. So we see a lot of hypnotism also happening. So that is called as Vasita Siddhi. And sometimes this people who or the yogis who has this Vasita mystic power, they try to control some people and they try to make sometimes speak nonsense. And also sometimes this is little dangerous also. They try to exploit them, they take off their money, and sometimes they try to make them do some wrong activity also. They might try to kill somebody also or try to exploit somebody. So, so in this way, this Vasita Siddhi is one more thing. Then last two is Prakyamya and Kama Vasaita. So Prakyamya is again by magic. So whatever he likes to do, he can perform that. So, for example, Prabhupada is mentioning that he can make water enter into one eye and then come out from another eye or from the same eyes. So they can just perform such all wonderful activity. The same thing is with uh, Kama Vasaita. So that is the highest perfection over there, where he can create wonderful effects in the nature, or he can so all this is something like impossible for people like us. So, so from all this mystic siddhis, they may derive happiness. But again, Prabhupada is telling that even that happiness, what is derived from all these mystic perfections, how do they get these mystic perfections? They perform lot and austerities to just achieve such mystic perfectionist. But that happiness to derive such mystic perfections is also, the happiness which is derived is also temporary over here. And Prabhupada here again mentions, you can know that, which is that shloka in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, where Prabhupada is mentions about Krishna. Now, Krishna is called what? Yogeshwar. So he is actually, Krishna is the master of all this yogic mystic power. Here we saw about 8 mystic powers. So Krishna is the master of all this yogic power. So a bhakta who is a devotee of Lord Krishna, he will not endeavor to achieve all this yogic mystic power. He depends on Krishna. And if there is any necessity of exhibiting such yogic power by a devotee, Krishna will show it and Krishna will exhibit that. So we can see in the examples of Bhagavad Gita in the battle of Kurukshetra, where Arjuna did not manifest any yogic power over there. But by Krishna's grace and mercy, everything was so wonderfully performed by Krishna in the battle of Kurukshetra. So we can see that it is only simply by the grace of Krishna that the Pandavas became victorious, even though there were great heroes like Dronacharya, Bhishma, Karna, all in front of all of them. The Pandavas turned out victorious even by having a small army when compared to Kauravas having the Krishna's army. But when Krishna's mercy and when Krishna is on their side, then they became victorious. So even if any heroic action has to be shown, the devotees will never endeavor for such heroic things. So because why? Because they completely depend on Krishna. If there is any need, then Krishna will show it up. So they never take any benefit, or they never take any credit also. So nimitta matrama bhava savya sachin. So we know this verse from Bhagavad Gita. Right? So the battlefield was actually conducted by Krishna, but he owns the victory. So, but actually we see historically that Pandavas, the Arjunas, they own the victory. But who was the reason for that victory? The victory is actually by Krishna over here. So we can understand here in this clearly that even though there may be so much of mystic powers or this materialistic people who think they have advanced very well in maintaining all these material comforts, but they never understand that advancement in this material knowledge is just foolish. There is no need of such things. And they also think that the Krishna conscious people are also less intelligent people. But here, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur is clearly making us understand that this human form of life is not meant for enjoying in this material world. It is to get out of this material world. That is to get out of this material contamination. So if we try to advance in material knowledge or try to get all this yogic siddhis, it is not going to help us. It is not going to help us in achieving liberation also. So quickly read this. Anyone wants to read? Was not read till now. Yes, Dalita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Should I start from in the Hari Bhakti?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. In the Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya, it is stated that Prahlad Maharaja, a great devotee of the Lord, prayed to Narasimha, the half-lion, half-man incarnation, as follows. My dear Lord, I repeatedly pray onto your lotus feet that I may simply be stronger in devotional service. I simply pray that my Krishna consciousness may be more strong and steady, because happiness derived out of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is so powerful that with it one can have all other perfections of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and even the attainment of liberation from material existence. Shall I continue, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Actually, a pure devotee does not aspire after any of these perfections, because the happiness derived from devotional services in Krishna consciousness is so transcendental and so unlimited that no other happiness can compare to it. It is said that even one drop of happiness in Krishna consciousness stands beyond comparison with an ocean of happiness derived from any other activity. Thus, any person who has developed even a little quantity of pure devotional service can very easily kick out all the other kinds of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation.
Yes,
Hare
thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So here we can see that till now Prabhupada was mentioning about materialist people and the mystic yogis and what your other yogis, different types of yogic siddhis and all. So now Prabhupada is here trying to make us understand that how devotional practice is the highest and how it is eternal even after so many things we studied. So here he is giving an example of Prahlad Maharaj, who being a great devotee of the Lord. And what is he is asking or praying to the Lord, that we can see or we can make our own devotional practices stronger in our understandings, that we are going in the proper path of Krishna consciousness, or we are still in the proper direction. We need not be deviated. Sometimes the question arises sometimes in our mind also, that whether I'm going in a proper direction, whether devotional practices is the highest, such questions may arise. So here Prabhupada, for that reason, is making us very clearly to make our faith in devotional practices stronger. So he is giving reference here from the Bhagavatam, of where Prahlad Maharaj, what is he asking? What is he praying for? He is praying to the Lord. He is praying at his lotus feet that please make me stronger in devotional service. And I simply pray that my Krishna consciousness may become more strong, more steady, because the happiness derived from Krishna consciousness and is so powerful that it is beyond all this perfection of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and even the attainment of liberation. So we can always pray to the Lord of in the footsteps of what Prahlad Maharaj is praying, that we can always become stronger in Krishna consciousness, become steady in our Krishna consciousness, process, because the happiness which is derived is simply more powerful than the happiness we may derive from other things. So Prahlad Maharaj has made it very clear to us here that we can always pray in this way to the Lord. And one more thing is, pure devotees like Prahlad Maharaj will not aspire for any material things, because they have undergone that simply blissful happiness in being in devotional practices. And that happiness, whatever is derived from devotional practices, is transcendental, and that cannot be compared to anything. And what is he telling here? Prabhupada is trying to make us understand that even one drop of happiness in Krishna consciousness is standing beyond comparison of any of happiness derived from any other activity. So we can understand that how important is this devotional service, and how the happiness derived from this Krishna consciousness is nothing to be compared at all. And we can be also show our gratitude to Prabhupada over here, that how we have come to Krishna conscious because of his mercy. We are able to take up the devotional service because of his mercy, and we are able to go through this happiness in Krishna consciousness. So we'll continue from here in the next class. Few more paragraphs. So we can continue that in the next class, where it describes about other devotees, few devotees of the Lord, who only wanted devotional practices. They did not desire anything other than serving the Lord and pleasing the Lord. So we'll continue in our next session. So any questions or anything you want to share, you can share.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mostly here, Prabhupada mentioned about the siddhis in today's class itself, no, Mataji?
Siddhis, yes, Mataji. So any question over there, Mataji? What you wanted to tell?
No, today's class is most of the part is siddhis, about siddhis he mentioned.
Yeah. And about one more point he mentioned about was impersonalist, who think themselves to be liberated, or they have come into the liberated platform. But Prabhupada very clearly mentions it here that they are not at all in that part of liberation, or they have not achieved even the Brahman realization, or not even realized the Brahman realization properly. If they have at least understood the Brahman realization, they would not have come back to this material world. Why do they come back? Because of their intelligence not being pure. So when our intelligence also becomes pure, we are not attached to these material things. So we are in a higher platform. So only by devotional practices we can come out of all of this. So that is what Prabhupada is trying to tell us. And that is the highest among the happiness derived from all the three. And that is eternal over. So we will get more examples from devotees in our next sessions. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnavebhyo. Very good. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay.